C-Tubas, One Man Smoke right back at you. Back at the farm today. Get a little update. What's going on up here, and talking to Brian here in a few. Got a little backy hanging. All of it's out of the ground now. It's all been harvested. Just up here, curing. Waiting to get in the case. It's a beautiful thing.
You got a row of disc openers, and these disc openers open the soil. In the bottom of this box, there's a meter. If you zoom in right here, you might be able to actually see some seed. And that meter, it basically knocks some over the edge, and it falls down through that tube into the disc opener, and then these wheels in the back close the dirt around it. This is a conventional drill, so you have to till the soil before you can use it. The thing I like about it, it holds a lot of seed. And that's wheat. And it's been treated with a fungicide, that's why it's pink.
Uh-huh. What do you think, mister? Good stuff?
He helped me put it in here.
Yeah,
Hey, you're
not breaking something down.
You're a big man. That is a lot of wheat. How much you got in there?
A whole pallet. There was a whole pallet of 50-pound bags. We put the whole pallet in there. And what you see in there is what's left. I've still got a few more fields to do next week.
And watch me jump down. Good thing I jumped down. What that? Good thing I jumped down in time.
You want to smash it, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what this looks like. Kids and I picked up leaves this year. Every wagon that came to the barn, when it left, we collected all the leaves off the wagon and we strung them up on a wire. We've got 30 or 40 strings of leaves that we've basically, normally we'd throw that away. So we picked them up off the wagon, speared them on a wire, hung them on a pair of screws.
So,
they're almost ready.
Yeah.
What you want to look at is that stem right there at the top. If that's dry and firm, then it's cured.
so would this be palleted as some choice, or this back of here hanging here, or
Well, this
it's
is
just
this is where young people get started in working in tobacco because the sticks are too heavy for them to lift. But the young people are close to the ground, and they can pick these leaves up off the dirt or pick them up off the wagons even easier. And then rather than throw this away, we'll save it. And when we go sell it, this money will belong to the children. So that they can learn, hey, I did all that hard work back in August, and now I got $100. Maybe next August I'll want to do more leaves.
well, how'd that come about? Is that something that's
Generation after generation
Yeah.
after generation. That's what the young people do on tobacco farms, pick up leaves. And we only did it a couple hours at a time, and then the kids get whiny and say, hey, I'm hot, I want to go home or whatever. And I would encourage them, hey, just do one more. Just do one more and then we'll go to the house. And they did.
Well, looks like they did a good job.
Well, that's a whole lot of leaves that we
Yeah.
would've- Normally when the wagon goes out of here, we take it back to the field and kick off, whatever fell off. Well, this time we just parked them outside and we went out there and picked them all up. So while the guys were in here hanging sticks in the rail, we were outside picking leaves up off that wagon and then spearing them on these wires.
How's last year's harvest?
The tobacco looks small. You can pan up there in the tier. It's not very tall. It doesn't have really big leaves.
This from last year?
This is all 2015.
2014.
No, this is 15. This
It looks like it's older than
we
15.
We finished harvest this year much earlier than normal.
because it's come in the case pretty fast. I mean,
it's not given right now.
I mean, you got. It looks to me like
We
you got
need-
pretty good color.
We need 70% relative humidity to be able to take this down out of the barn. And it's pretty dry this morning. You can hear
Yeah.
it. Yeah, we can't handle that. We just have to leave that up in the barn.
Dad, I see something.
These are leaves that we picked up off the floor since then.
I see something blue over there.
You see
How
something
accurate.
blue over there.
How accurate's this?
I've never really benchmarked it against anything, but
You can basically just go off a feel anyway, right? The
when this gets up
pliability
here
of it
about
is-
70 or 75% for, say, 4 to 6 hours, you can feel a difference. You can start to squeeze those tails without shattering them.
I mean, how you think it looks? I mean, it looks good to me.
This barn here's got good color.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's going to make a whole lot of pounds.
small.
So I don't think we're going to have any quality issues. We're just not going to have a whole lot of quantity.
Be careful, mister. Don't fall. That might hurt.
I'm careful. I'm always careful.
Well, you're a pretty good climber there.
No,
You've been doing that a few times, haven't you?
if I keep doing it, I'll be great at climbing.
That's right. Practice makes perfectness.
I sold the Kirby.
Oh, yeah?
I got to pick it up yesterday. Or Friday. I'm going to use that money to pay for stripping.
Wasn't working out for you. Because you were telling me something about the stalks, the stickers down at the bottom.
The machine does a good job. The issue is we hang it outside and then the weather destroys it. You know, if it was this dry, hanging outside right now, with that wind, they bump against each other and shatter. But in here in the barn, you know, behind that wall, there's not much movement, even when the breeze blows. The tobacco needs to be in the barn. I may still be forced to hang some outside next season, but if I do, we'll hang sticks out there.
Dad, look at this.
I've already converted one of the racks
No hands.
to sticks.
I have no hands on bars.
You have any options for the outside tobacco as far as
Rent
like
a
the
barn.
plastic's not working?
No, plastic keeps blowing off.
How about like
rent
a
a
car, like a fiberglass structure or something?
Expense.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to invest right now.
I'm taller. I'm just tired.
How tall are you in that picture? You better be careful. You gotta be careful. Always look around you and look for sharp things.
Or look down and wonder why you're bleeding. A tornado flattened this barn in
Exactly.
91. So in the rubble of the flattened barn, they salvaged these posts. And when the new barn was built, the posts got reused. And we made the new barn a little shorter in height than the old barn. The old barn was 5 tiers deep in the middle and 4 tiers deep in the shed. And we basically took 1 tier off the top to make it a little bit shorter. it's a little bit more efficient when you're passing tobacco up to not have to go so high. And then I came in later and added another tier rail on the other side of the barn post. And those short sticks that we use in the cable hoist barn will work in this barn too. You can see that this rail with the wire attached to it is kind of gray looking. That wire has been there for a while. And you can see that this other rail on the other side of the post looks pretty fresh. So we basically put a whole new set of tiers down this side of the post and the same over there so that they would be narrower, so that the shorter sticks would fit. Because I was having some of the sticks from the cable hoist barn get mixed in with my other sticks, and so now it really doesn't matter which stick you've got, it'll fit, it'll span the rail. Last year we had 3,600 sticks in this barn. This year there's only 2,500. So last year we'd have had that bottom in the middle, that bottom rail in the middle would be hanging, and then this section here would be full clear to the front. We switched fields, and this field's just a little smaller. That's part of the reason. The other reason is we had a bad stand. We had several plants that died. And then the biggest problem we had 7 inches of rain in June and 7 more in July. And that's the reason it's small. Normally in June we would cultivate that every week or so. Well, when we got 7 inches of rain, there was no cultivating.
Well, before you had some blue shank.
We had black shank in this field.
Black shank.
A couple of years ago, and this is a resistant variety, and we used a fungicide. So we basically headed off the black shank problem, but with the deluge of 7 inches of rain in June and 7 more in July, it made that field just as hard as concrete, and we were unable to get in there and cultivate it when it was wet. And then after we didn't get it cultivated, it didn't grow right because the roots weren't getting the right amount of air. All that water just kind of drowned it.
Now, what varieties did you have?
This is KT209. It has black shank resistance. It has the best black shank resistance that you can get. Some of our other varieties that we have are KT212. We had 5 acres of that we put in the cable hoist barn. Newton's N126. There's 5 acres of that in my cousin's barn. And then there's 5 acres of NC7 that we put in at the last.
Well, what about what's Uncle Jerry and Ryan doing this year?
Neither one of them have any tobacco this year.
What are they growing soybean
They
or
got soybeans wall to wall.
cattle? Ryan doing any
I don't
cattle?
think there's any cattle.
He's done with that.
I think so.
So with the varieties of burley, like how many varieties now are there?
Probably 100.
100.
Probably 100, but there's only 20 or 30 that are actually being used. Some of those other varieties are older varieties, and they're maybe used in the breeding program to make the new ones, but not really something people are putting out in the field.
Yeah. There's a professor, I think, a college professor that's responsible for a lot of the varieties.
Dr. Miller at UK bred his first variety in the 80s, and it was released in 1986 as Tennessee 86. And following that initial release was Tennessee 90, was released in 1990, and that was by far the most popular variety that he bred, and around the world is still used a lot today. In 1997, he released Tennessee 97. We've actually grown a little bit of that here on this farm. It really likes irrigation. So if we have a particular field that's close to a hole of water where we can irrigate it, we'll use some 97 there. In 2000, his position was split between the University of Kentucky and the University of Tennessee. So that's when the KT varieties came out, and the first one was KT200. And it looked a whole lot like Tennessee 86. And KT200 was a joint venture between Kentucky and Tennessee. Then in 2004 was KT204. That one remains to be a very popular variety. It favors Tennessee 90 a whole lot. And then there's KT206, 210, 212, and this 209. And it's my understanding there's a couple more in the works that we might be seeing this coming year or the year after.
Now, what goes into making these new different varieties?
They have to be bred the old-fashioned way.
And how do they do that?
They collect pollen from one plant and put it in the flowers of another. So they cover that flower up to prevent contamination from any other plants. And they do this in a greenhouse environment where the growing season can be controlled, so they can actually have 3 growing seasons in 1 calendar year.
Now, how do they know the resistance levels of like?
They'll take this experimental variety, and they've got a couple of fields in the state that are known to be infected with those particular problems, and they'll put them out there. And when they don't survive, they know that they don't have resistance. And when they thrive under that condition, they realize they have good resistance.
So this process of making a new
variety takes 7 to 8 years.
Got you. Okay.
So our newer varieties are already in the pipeline.
Right.
We haven't seen them yet.
Okay. When was the last time you did any Maryland?
I think I only did that one time.
Just that once?
Yeah.
That's more of a Carolina variety, ain't it?
No, this was off the eastern seaboard over there. It was like the first tobacco the settlers raised when they discovered tobacco, and it more favors the dark tobacco really. And when it grows in the field, it's got a dark green color to it, and even when we cut it. But the only problem I found with the Maryland tobacco was that the yield wouldn't keep up with our burley here. It only got about that tall and had about 16 leaves on a stalk and produced 1,800 to 2,000 pounds. And that same year, our burley made 2,500.
There's I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's a cigar company called Drew Estates that is marketing Kentucky burley cigars.
100% burley.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're 100% burley, but I don't know what their
mix
is. Yeah, but that's what they're promoting it as. I don't know, what's your opinion on that? Burley and cigars.
When we were kids, we made some.
Yeah.
They were pretty harsh.
Well,
we just pulled leaves right down out of the barn and made one, and kind of had
choked out, and that was the end of that.
To it. It's pretty rough. I think that before they make any products, there's an aging process that helps mellow it out, and then of course they'll blend it with other tobacco types to get the desired flavor.
I think my personal opinion is just more marketing than anything.
I think that they also downplay the amount of additives that they actually use.
Absolutely.
Because what we made here was not anywhere near something that's commercially available.
So they might be using burley in it, but it's not going to be.
And it may only be a percentage.
Yeah. Well, it's like most burley blends in pipe tobacco. It's just
a small.
Burley might be maybe 30%.
Right.
I think at the most.
And I think there's a reason for that, because if it was 100% burley, it'd be pretty stout.
Yeah.
And it'd be pretty harsh. It wouldn't be very pleasant.
So what's changed in the industry that you can mention as far as?
Well, the major company that we were contracted with ceased all operation in the United States on April 15th.
Now.
And they transferred our multi-year contract to their nearest competitor, and they struck up a deal with their nearest competitor to supply them with U.S. burley. So that means that our receiving station in Carrollton is now closed, and that means we will have to deliver all of this tobacco to either Maysville or Glasgow, and we were asked to choose between Maysville and Glasgow during the spring, and we chose Maysville, which we think is a little closer to us than Glasgow, but neither one is very convenient for where we're at. So all of this tobacco is going to have to be hauled almost 3 hours. We're not real sure how that's going to go, and we haven't heard anything from them yet as to when they're going to start receiving tobacco this season.
So
usually by now we'd have had a letter in the mail saying this is the date that we're going to start taking tobacco.
Man, if you get rejected tobacco, then it's that much more painful for you to have to come back and.
Yes. Are you digging up rocks?
So Kentucky is into their second year of hemp.
I've got some friends that are in other counties that are growing experimental plots of hemp. The crop seems to be thriving in Kentucky. What remains to be seen is where will we sell this crop, who's going to buy that crop, and what are they going to make with it. That seems to have been the downfall with hemp before. You're going to have somebody willing to invest a significant amount of capital into a factory that makes products out of hemp. And then the other issue is going to be how far is that factory going to be from my farm, and what are they paying? Because if it's $20 a ton, I can't do that and make a profit. And what type of packaging are they going to want? You know, can I roll this stuff up with round baler I already have? Do they want large square bales? Because a large square baler is an expensive piece of equipment and we don't have one. So there's a lot of what ifs out there, but there are experimental plots of it all over the state, and they are harvesting or have already been harvested now, and the results look favorable. I mean, the soil and the climate is suitable for production of hemp here in Kentucky, but what remains to be seen is now what. So if we come up with maybe a facility in Lexington or Louisville, somewhere close enough to us that we can grow it and take it to them at a profit, that may be something that we look into in the future.
Seems like growing burley these days is becoming increasingly more difficult.
It has.
Where do you see the future of?
Well, our contracted price is sort of stalemated at a certain level, and our costs continue to escalate. Cost of fertilizer, cost of fuel, cost of labor, those are our three biggest inputs.
Daddy, I found a worm.
You found a worm?
Yeah, right there.
You gonna eat it?
No, I'm gonna squish it. He did.
Our contracts are good through 2017. So our contracted amount will remain relatively stable through 2017. And 2017 for me is like the edge of a cliff. I don't know if we're going to fall off the edge of the cliff or if that's going to lead to a new opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of, I think you were telling me before, there's some people that you know that didn't get their contracts renewed.
Anybody that had a 1-year contract down here in Carrollton, when the deal went through with their nearest competitor, 1-year people weren't even discussed, which I feel like they did them dirty.
Yeah. So where's that leave them? What?
And the biggest thing is they want quality burley. Your best quality burley comes from a guy that's got 3 acres in his backyard and goes out there and talks to it every night.
Exactly.
Your best quality doesn't come from the guy that's got 100 acres to try to juggle.
Right.
So it just doesn't make a
well,
lot of
once
sense.
again, they're
Under this one too.
everything's a wholesale number to them.
It just doesn't look good. I'm normally an optimist when it comes to the future of tobacco, but it doesn't look good from now.
What do you think the long-term solution is going to be? These bigger corporations going all overseas to grow tobacco, or?
There's only a few places in the world that have the right climate to produce that.
Well, how are they going to?
And they don't have one of me to do it.
Look how much it was big.
Okay, 30, 40 years ago, and just in the state of Kentucky,
Look at big.
how many tobacco farmers?
10 times as many as there are now.
So that means you have 10 times less
That big rock is.
tobacco. So how are they dealing?
That rock is.
I think the few of us that are left are growing more. But at the same time,
Nope.
every year there's guys that are saying, this is my last year, I'm done with it. You know, I'm tired of
Another one.
another
This one.
situation that we face. We've got to submit to them this year a ton of records, and for me that's not a problem because I have them. But for a lot of growers, they may or may not have them, or they may or may not be willing to divulge all that information. So I think that's going to be another hurdle, and I understand the reasoning. The reasoning is if U.S. Burley is able to be source verified and U.S. Burley is able to be proven that we've followed all the laws and regulations of the United States, then it's sort of be like that can of tuna that says it's dolphin safe. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's practices that the fishermen use to make sure that they don't catch any dolphins when they're catching the tuna, and that makes that tuna more marketable, more valuable. Well, our burley is going to be much like that. Our U.S. grown burley didn't use unfair labor practices. Our U.S. grown burley didn't use unlabeled chemicals. Our U.S. grown burley is the more friendly burley, so that makes it more appealing on a global marketplace, because in other countries they may not have any regulations. It's the wild, wild west. Anybody can grow any amount, spray whatever they want on it, employ or force whoever they want to work for them to do the job, and flood the market with all these pounds, you know, like a blood diamond, you know, where these people have been killed just to get this product. Whereas here in the United States, you know, we're going to have this big ream of paper about what day I planted it and what seed I used, and I'm okay with providing that information, but I'm in the minority. I think a lot of growers think it's none of your business what variety I used, when I planted it, or who worked for me. And I understand that. This is the United States of America. It's a free country. And here we are asking to be regulated on top of regulated on top of more regulated, and that's just not appealing. So a lot of growers are going to get out for that reason right there.
You got cattle this year?
We've got a few cattle. Cattle prices got really high back in the summer, and now they've started to decline a little bit. I think moving forward, maybe when we sell some of this tobacco, we'll pick up a few new cows, and we've got plenty of country back here that's not suitable for row crops, but the cattle do well there. And I have some friends I went to high school with who are opening a meat processing plant in Campbellsburg, and I see tremendous potential for me to grow beef cattle right here on this farm, just the way that God intended. They're going to eat grass, drink water out of the creek, and lay in the sunshine, and that's pretty much all that goes into our cattle out here. I don't know if that qualifies for organic status or not, but whatever the labeling might be, we've got good quality beef coming off of this place, and no hormones, no antibiotics, none of that stuff is part of our program. These cattle basically just roam this entire landscape at free will until it's time to separate the calves from the cows, and that's about the only time we mess with them. And then perhaps we can work out a deal with this meat processing facility in Campbellsburg, so that you, the customer, could buy beef from me, the farmer, and let them do the cutting and the packaging, and they're going to have a USDA inspector. And that's critical, because if I'm selling you cuts of beef, it has to be USDA inspected. So if they have an inspector on site, and as they process, he says that they're doing things in the right manner and that this animal looks healthy and there's nothing wrong with the meat, he stamps USDA on it. Now I can sell it to you, and we'll just cut out all the middlemen and all the marketing and all the hype and all the profit that the other people are taking, and just keep that between me and you.
What variety of cattle you have now?
Mostly Angus. We have a little bit of Hereford in the mix. You'll see that when you see one with a white face. And then we have a little bit of Santa Gertrudis in the mix. Some of our cows from a few years ago were sired by a Santa Gertrudis bull. Santa Gertrudis is a breed that was specifically developed by the King Ranch in Texas, and it's 5/8 Brahma and 3/8 Shorthorn. And the Santa Gertrudis do really well in the hot, dry climate in Texas, and that means that they thrive in the summertime here in Kentucky as well. But we like to cross that Santa Gertrudis back on an Angus. The Angus and the Shorthorn seem to do a little bit better with the colder winters that we have here in Kentucky. The purebred Santa Gertrudis has a little bit of issue when it starts to snow and it gets 20 degrees when they're used to Texas. And moving forward, I think we'll lean more towards that black-hided cattle anyway. They seem to be in demand in the marketplace. Whether solid black Angus or maybe a little bit of Hereford with the white face.
I think a lot of it's all that years and years of marketing Black Angus.
Oh, absolutely. The
Everybody-
American Angus Association collected dues from their members and used a ton of that for promotion, and it's starting to pay dividends.
Yeah. And now it's like almost a household name.
You bet.
People actually think that Black Angus, Black Angus is what, like a cut of meat or something. You know, they just think that.
Right. Well, it's actually a breed of cattle,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is there are other breeds that can qualify based on what the meat looks like. So maybe that cow is purebred Angus, you know, registered with papers and dues paid, or maybe that cow is crossbred. It's got a little Angus in its genes. Its skin is still black, but when they cut that dude open, that meat looks just as good as any purebred Angus, and it will qualify as certified Angus beef.
What about some other varieties like the Wagyu and those different varieties that are becoming really popular because of all the marbling?
Is this something they do out of country?
Yeah, I think so. I think Wagyu is actually, I think Japanese, but it's really, really well marbled.
Probably
Some
has
of
to
them-
do with the diet. They
Yeah,
probably feed
maybe.
the heck out of that cow. And that cow probably isn't allowed to roam over hundreds of acres of
Yeah.
landscape, because that would make those muscles get strong, and that would be the exact opposite.
So you would, your cattle would be mostly at least
Farm
Grass-fed,
fresh or grass-fed, or
that's-
pasture raised. I don't know. There's
that's the new thing too
there's a
now.
dozen terms out there, but what I would do is I would encourage my consumers to come out and meet me and meet my family, and realize that whatever is out there in that pasture, not only are we selling it, we're eating it. And would I feed my kids something that was bad? No. I'm going to feed them the best that I can get a hold of, and the best I can get a hold of is raised right here in these woods.
Hungry? You think so?
Yeah. And I think we can get the hay some other day. Looks like we got a lot. Looks like we got a lot, Daddy.
Looks like another lucky day, huh?
Yeah. The first
Either way.
lucky day.
Looks like they get to eat twice, huh?
Either way.
Two cows, wait. What happened? Here does look like
That one's got a blue eye, huh?
She had a cataract.
Looks like they were hungry.
She can still see out of that eye, maybe just a little. What about that?
They seem pretty happy now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You notice how skinny they are.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
They look like they've been roughing it.
Actually, I haven't given them any grain for a while,
Is that right?
but they've got 70 acres back here, so they've got all they want.
Like she was doing it.
How many you got out here now? Just these two?
Just these two at this barn. Now over at the other barn, we got about 38.
38.
I bet some are over there.
And then there's probably a dozen calves.
Why are you keeping these over here? Is this what you're gonna
That's
eat?
what's left of mine.
Okay. What are
No,
they?
these
What
are-
are they weighing right about
These
now?
are cows. I'm gonna say they'll go 900 to 1,000 pounds,
Uh huh.
and they should be pregnant.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna drop some,
Have some calves.
and then
Well, if those calves turn out to be female, we'll keep them. Rather than buy any, we'll just keep the females and then keep more females and eventually grow the herd.
Sure, Kenny. That.
They seem pretty happy. What do you think, Christopher?
It sure does look like they're hungry.